We're about ready to claw back $1 trillion from the last administration. The Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, has just set off what may be the most consequential policy shift in the auto industry in over a decade. On Tuesday of last week, the EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin announced a proposal to rescind the controversial 2009 endangerment findings. It's really important you know this because it actually affects all of us. It's a legal foundation that has been used for 16 years to justify greenhouse gases and those emissions and the regulations on every car, truck, and bus sold in the U.S. This is the Green New Deal, and they're rolling it back and clawing back $1 trillion. Now, if finalized, this proposal would dismantle more than $1 trillion in regulatory mandates, including President Biden's aggressive electric vehicle requirements, and restore consumer choice to a market long constrained by unelected bureaucrats. Thankfully, this is about to end, but there's a little bit more to know because there are some hurdles and you get to be involved and have a say. Before we get into it, I want to remind you to like this video and to subscribe to this channel to keep up with what's going on in the automotive world. And here's a quick word from our video sponsor. Would you believe me if I told you inside your pantry right now is one of the healthiest foods on the planet? Yep, it's true. It's not some weird trendy superfood. Spoiler alert. It's olive oil. According to Dr. Stephen Gundry, a famous cardiothoracic surgeon, nutrition expert, and health advocate, you should get as much high-quality olive oil in your daily routine as possible, whether you drink a shot of it daily or you use it on your food. So how can you tell the difference between an olive oil that can boost your health and one that isn't up to par? In an effort to answer that question, Dr. Gundry has released his personal research and findings. This video has gone viral since its release, and it's important for you to see if you can start benefiting immediately. You can watch the video right now by going to getolive1.com/car or by clicking the link in the description below. People who have taken his advice have shared the results with him, saying the olive oil they bought has helped change their lives. Make sure you go to getolive1.com/car and click the link in the description below for his video. Now, this would also pull the brakes on the unpopular mandates like engine start-stop technology, which we covered, and you were all in agreement. We need to remove that. And the costly EV infrastructure requirements that automakers say have driven up vehicle prices because they're not making any money, and that's why cars have gotten so expensive. Here's why this proposal is so significant. The 2009 endangerment finding gave the EPA unprecedented power to regulate 6 greenhouse gases under Section 202A of the Clean Air Act. It asserted that these gases, including carbon dioxide, posed a threat to public health and welfare, opening the door to sweeping emissions, and these mandates affected the auto industry and it affected your everyday life. Since then, the EPA has used the findings to justify a series of regulations designed to force automakers toward electric vehicles and away from gasoline-powered cars. You should be able to choose. But the Biden administration said no. In their 2024 standards, for example, they required automakers to cut tailpipe emissions in half by 2032. That would mean that between 35 and 56% of all new vehicles sold would have to be electric within the next decade. California and 11 other states have piggybacked on these standards with even stricter rules, including outright bans on gasoline-only vehicles by 2035, and some of those are still in place today. This is about to change. Critics are saying that these mandates amount to a de facto EV requirement that Congress never approved. They also argue that the endangerment finding was based on flawed legal reasoning and exaggerated climate risk assumptions. Obama and Biden's EPA twisted the law, ignoring precedent, and warped science to achieve their preferred ends to stick American families in hundreds of billions of dollars in fees and fines and hidden taxes every single year. Lee Zeldin said that the announcement, which was held at an automotive dealership in Indiana, that this is going to be a huge change and the economic impact is over $1 trillion. That's what's at stake right now. According to EPA estimates, rescinding the endangerment finding would roll back regulations totaling more than $1 trillion in compliance costs. Automakers have spent years re-engineering vehicles to meet complex emission targets, often passing these costs on to customers because they're not about to absorb it. And that's little stupid things like start-stop technology, making vehicles lighter, but not making them necessarily safer, and making them way more expensive. This is always the case. Pass the cost down to the consumer. The American Trucking Association estimates that Biden's electric truck mandate alone would have crippled the supply chain, disrupted deliveries, and raised prices for American families and businesses. Remember, every single middleman that takes your product from the port to the warehouse or from the manufacturer to deliver to you, that would have cost substantially more. The ATA president and CEO Chris Spear welcomed the EPA's move, calling it a critical step towards saving jobs and protecting the economy. Indiana Governor Mike Braun, who joined Zeldin at the event, echoed that sentiment, saying, "We can protect our environment, support our American jobs at the same time." For too long, Washington has acted as if those two goals are mutually exclusive. They're not. There are some legal foundations and next steps, and you need to pay attention to this because you will actually have a say for a change. The EPA argues that recent Supreme Court rulings, including West Virginia versus the EPA and Loper Bright versus Raimondo, make clear that the majority regulatory decisions of this scale must come from Congress, not federal agencies or unelected bureaucrats. These decisions limit the ability of the executive branch to unilaterally impose sweeping economic mandates without explicit legislative approval. This is interesting, and here's what happens next, because the public comment period is super important. The proposal is now open to public comment until September 21st of 2025. Americans, automakers, environmentalist groups, the industry stakeholders can weigh in via regulatory government through the Federal Registry. The docket number is ID number EPA HQ OAR 2025-0194. I'll put it down below in the description and a link so that you can go and put your comment in. Please do, because when we did it with the kill switches, we buried the Federal Registry, and we need to do that again. You need to share this video with your friends and have them make comment. In the Federal Registry, all those comments will be reviewed, and the EPA will finalize the rule. This process must also pass through the White House Office of Management and Budget for approval, and they're on our team to get rid of all these regulations. There will be some legal challenges. Environmental groups in states like California, who always like to sue, are expected to sue again, arguing that rescinding the endangerment finding violates the Supreme Court 2007 decision of Massachusetts versus the EPA, which affirmed the agency's authority to regulate greenhouse gases. It's likely this issue could end up before the Supreme Court again, prolonging the uncertainty for automakers and consumers, which means we all pay more until we can get our arms around this and claw back $1 trillion. That's a lot of money. What this really means for drivers, that if this proposal is finalized and withstands all the legal challenges, it would reshape the entire automotive landscape. It would end Biden's EV mandate, and automakers would no longer be forced to prioritize electric vehicles at the expense of gasoline-powered vehicles. You get to choose what you want to drive, which we've been talking about for a long time on this channel. Lower vehicle costs. The fewer cost compliance requirements, manufacturers could pass those savings onto you, the customer. I know you're going to say, no, they won't, but they want to sell you vehicles, and having vehicles sitting on lots costs them money. They want to sell as many vehicles as they can. That is their goal. But if the costs continue to grow, they're going to have to offer even more expensive vehicles to try to offset those losses. And that's where we are today. I'm sure they would love to offer $20,000 cars. That's what you see them doing in China. And that's why they're taking over the entire globe where Chinese cars are sold. And we're about to see some changes here that could be massive to lower vehicle costs. The biggest thing that the EPA could do to help you is restore consumer choice. Drivers could decide for themselves whether they want an electric vehicle, a hybrid, a gasoline-powered vehicle. Manufacturers are going to build what consumers want. And this is something we're constantly talking about. But if you don't have those choices and this rule stays in place, it's only going to cost us more money, and you're going to be forced to drive something you don't want or keep your vehicle forever. The goal of the EPA is to block California's ban on gasoline-powered cars. The EPA could revoke California's ability to set stricter emissions rules than the federal standards. And this currently affects 11 other states that follow California's lead, including where I live in New York State. And it's extremely frustrating, not just for the dealers, but for the consumers, and the fact that charging stations are still an issue, and that's not going to change. This is a big, big problem, and the cost of electricity continues to rise. My bill has doubled in 2 months, and I'm sure yours has as well. However, the process is going to take time. Automakers must plan years in advance, and the Biden administration expected the fight on every single step, and they did their best to block it at every single corner so that car makers were forced to be beholden to the government. Here's where you come in. You can make your voice heard. The public comment period gives everyday Americans a rare chance to influence federal policy. And if you're concerned about the start-stop technology, EV mandates, or the regulatory costs built into the price of your next vehicle, now is the time to speak up. You can submit your comments directly through the federal e-ruling portal by searching for the docket. I'll have a link down below. Comments must be received by September 21st, 2025. Please be concise. Tell them the situation. The EPA will hold a virtual public hearing on August 19th and 20th, with additional session on August 21st if needed. Details are available on the EPA agency's website. I'll have a link for that down below as well to make your life a little easier. Here's the bigger picture. This isn't just about electric vehicles. The Endangerment Finding has been the legal backbone for every major greenhouse gas rule in the last 16 years. Rolling it back would not only upend Biden's climate agenda and the Green New Deal, but also shift power back to Congress and the states so that your voice gets heard. Supporters of the rescission say it's about restoring accountability. We're not saying environmental protection doesn't matter, said Energy Secretary Chris Wright, who stood alongside Zeldin at the announcement. We're saying major policy decisions should be made by elected officials, not unelected bureaucrats. Opponents, however, argued that eliminating these regulations would stall progress on climate change and, of course, the Green New Deal, and undermine the transition to cleaner technologies. They vow to fight this proposal in court. It's time to have your voice heard, and we want to make sure these unelected bureaucrats don't tell you what to drive and to get out of your car. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this, and check out our car review channel, Car Smarts. You can support me by buying me a cup of coffee, and if you want even more content, check out the links in the description. I'm Lauren Fix. Thank you so much for watching.